Hey guys, and welcome back to In Deep, a little tiny ship in these uncertain times that allows us to keep discovering the talent, stories, and challenges behind some of the best film, television, games, and advertising. I'm Ross, and if you have no idea what's going on, don't go back now. Don't worry about it. Chill out. We're just going to hang out and talk to some people about, well, especially a special somebody, about some of their work that we admire and how that came to be. This is our website. You probably know it. Today on our schedule, of course, we have the wonderful Arno Salters, who we've had the pleasure of working with a number of times in the past. And he's going to come on just shortly. I'm going to have him on old Betty White here. He's just waiting. I've decided I'm not going to keep him just hanging around while I chat. I'm just going to get the boring stuff out of the way first. Hello to everybody who's in the chat today. I see Arno's in there. Hey Arno, you'll see Lily, Nick, Hassan, as always. Great to see you. Kathy, Saren, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Daisy, Sarah, hello, and Natalie, good to see you. Physical Fork, yes. All right. How's it going, guys? Just another reminder, of course, that this entire thing has started because of our appeal for Crisis UK, which is a UK-based charity which is fighting against poverty and homelessness, which is super important during this time. Of course, every penny counts, and it's very it's difficult to think of others in this time, as especially when we're all kind of freaking out. But a lot of wonderful, very generous people have helped us go all the way up to £860 out of 1,000. Yes, amazing! So many people that have donated more than once, sometimes more than twice. So a very special thank you again to Emily Exton, Dane Armour, Carol Baskin, James McLaughlin yesterday, the producer. Thank you so much. And Joshua Eiffel, making sure also that they're in the running for the wonderful prize that we have from some of our supporters, and a few other little surprises that we have in the mix. What kind of prizes, you might ask? Oh, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe something from our supporters, which are, of course, the 5 Points Brewing Company. You might know them and love them because I talk about them all the time, but they're really great and they usually hook us up with a lot of wonderful stuff. So we got some prizes from them. Go there. Got that promo code, Indeed, 10% off. Just get your beer on. I'm gonna. We can do it together. But enough of that stuff. Let's get these things in, because I just want to talk to Arno and stuff. Let's just remember to subscribe and follow, and just drop in the chat as well. It's really important that we support each other during this time, and we want to get to know you guys and support you too. So with that in mind, I don't want to keep him waiting too much longer. Let's just get old Betty White warmed up here. Where is he? Give him a call. Ooh. Brought to you by Skype. Let's see if he answers. Hey Arno. Hey, how's it going?
Good. Good, how are you?
Well, I'm very well, thank you, and welcome. That was a brilliantly smooth segue. I'm sure everybody will admire that. That was definitely not weird at all. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
I'm good. I'm doing great. I'm looking at you 10 seconds ago. I'm looking 10 seconds into the past right now.
Oh, wonderful. Everybody, can you hear Arno all right? I just want to make sure that the levels are fine. Arno, you're in Montreal at the moment, right?
Montreuil, which is just outside Paris.
Oh, okay. When you were talking about Méliès, I was thinking, hang on a second, is he Canadian?
No. Yeah, no. Montreuil is it's a suburb just outside Paris, and that is where I live. And yeah, I was just mentioning that before this to Ross, that the Méliès had a studio around the corner from my house, which is a fun little bit of Montreuil history.
Wow. Have you always lived in that area?
Always lived in when I've been in Paris, I've always lived on the eastern side of Paris. I lived in London for a while, for 7 years, and then I was in the Bay Area for 5 years. Mm-hmm. But I'm an east side Paris boy.
East Side Paris. What does that mean? I don't know what that actually means. Does that mean that you're like street?
It's where the cool kids hang.
That's where of course, East is always better. I believe in every city, East is better. There's definitely
it tends to be the case that the eastern side of Paris is a bit more I don't know, is a bit less rich. Paris is just expensive everywhere nowadays anyway, but on the east side it's a little bit more diverse and interesting culturally, and the west side is where all the rich people and politicians live.
Good to know. Well, thanks for coming on. I know we had a little bit of a weird time thing because I thought you were calling from Canada. I was like, why is he talking about Paris? He's just so French. He just knows all these things. So. Great. Hey to Dane. Hello. Hey Roxanne. Roxanne's here as well. Hey guys. Just a quick thing. If you have any questions for Arno, please make sure that you drop it in there at any time. Arno, of course, we ask all of our guests to come on and pick through some of their work and pick just a handful of things that are that they find that they still love and they find have a particular interesting or memorable story or something that we aren't really necessarily aware of in the making of that made it to the final film, because of course we only see the finished result. Arno has very generously today come up with a whole bunch of behind the scenes things, which is kind of your way, I think. Do you love collecting those things, Arno?
I do, yeah. I'm really into the craftsmanship of filmmaking, that's just what I love about it, is the kind of I love the technical aspect of filmmaking, and I always love to try to unpick how things are made, whether it's the actual how the visual storytelling was put together, or how the story was written, and so whenever when doing a commercial or a music video, I love to kind of keep all the behind the scenes elements and to have all those tools and memory of all those tools and how the piece came to be. Yeah,
it's really wonderful, because I know that you've shared a few of them on your Vimeo and your Instagram and stuff before. Definitely, guys, go and check those out there, but not right now. A little bit later, we've got stuff that you probably haven't seen, that you couldn't have seen before, unless you perhaps involved in the making of. But anyway, how are you doing at the moment? Like, what's Paris like at the moment? What's getting you through all this?
It's similar to everywhere else. I think it's obviously completely shut down. There's maybe the shutdown is a bit harsher than in some other places. You're not actually allowed to go out unless you have you've got to fill out a form to go out, and you're not supposed to go out for anything other than essential needs like food and meds, basically, or you're allowed to go for a walk within like a 1 kilometer radius around your house.
Mm-hmm.
But what keeps me going? I don't know. My kids, keeping them busy, we just heard the confinement's going to go on for another month here, for sure, for another 4 weeks. So
is it May 11th? Is that it?
May 11th, yeah.
Yeah, God.
Yeah, that's what was just announced.
How are you feeling about that?
To be honest, I don't really know what to think about it. I feel like I'll be able to maybe analyze it in a couple of months once I don't know if it'll be over in a couple of months, maybe in 2 years once it's all over.
Yeah.
At this point, I just have no idea what to think. It's a very, very strange time. I feel like there's an element of, from a certain point of view, that you might enjoy the fact that you're completely cut off from the world, and there's a certain level of comfort in that. Yeah. Kind of like when you're on a plane and no one can get in touch. It's something a bit like that, but that's the only level of comfort in it, I'd say.
Yeah. There's very little comfort to be found, isn't there? Especially because I think you've got 2 children, do you? Am I right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you're having to
girls.
you're trying to manage of course homeschooling in the mix of all of that, of course.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is a unique struggle. I'm very lucky to not be at that stage yet with my daughter, but I can't imagine how difficult that must be for you.
Yeah, although I have to say my wife is the champion on that front. I'm not going to take too much credit.
Fair enough. Anyway, on that note, let's talk about wonderful things. Let's talk about your craft and stuff. Obviously, we're biased because we've worked with you before and have been big fans of your work and in the past, but haven't had a real opportunity to sit down with you and have a talk about how you came to these projects or your process.
You did a bit of research on this one, didn't you?
Yeah, I did a little bit at the beginning there, and of course, I've included other stuff where he's too modest to want to include his entire reel. So I just put these things together out of stuff I like. Quite selfishly, I'm just like, yeah, those things in there. But yeah, because I just love it, and I do think, especially after even the material that we're going to discuss later, it's wonderful to really start to see why and how you approach projects already just through the stuff that you send through via email, which we're going to share with all of you guys right now. So without further ado, I want to leap straight into the first piece because it's a music video with a long-term collaborator of yours, General Electric's, right? You've worked with them a lot, yeah?
Yeah. And the kind of behind-the-scenes reason is that the singer's my brother.
Oh my lord! I could not work with my brother. So you have a good relationship with your brother?
I do, yeah. I'm very lucky to have worked with him since his first album, and he's always trusted me enormously creatively on the music video front. So that's been huge.
Wow.
And so this video that we're going to talk about, I think, is Different Blue, which is the last one I did for him, which was a really fun one. The brief was really simply that I think that the label were quite keen to show that they're a really energetic band on stage. They're really fun to see live. They all jump around all over the place. And so the thought was, how do we put that into a music video somehow, but without it being just kind of a boring concert video. And so I kind of figured a fun way of showing that energy would be to clone the band a bunch of times, multiply them until there's 200 of them jumping around in a warehouse. It was obviously it was a challenge, as is any music video or indie music video, because there's just never enough money, and you kind of have to get the right crew on board. People are going to be willing to want to make the project, and who think it's going to be a fun project, and who are excited to be there. Which we were able to get a great team together. ICONOCLAST Germany, who rep me over there, produced it, and Cezary Zakarovic was the DP on the job, did an amazing job, and Mathematique did the post here in Paris, and they were amazing. Stop talking, Joe. Any specific questions?
Let's dive straight in.
Okay.
Here is General Electric with Different Blue. Different Blue, yes? I got that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Here we go.
There's an ocean, white and blue. I'm just a drop, sucked up by the heat of the sun, generated by you. And I'm tinted with your blue, tinted with this blue, different blue. There's a connection, deep and true. The air vibrated and wrapped us around you. And when you left the room, we cried like we knew you. Forever tinted with your blue, tinted with this blue, different blue. Generated by you, and I'm tinted with your blue, tinted with this blue, different blue. There's a connection, deep and true. The air vibrated and wrapped us around you, and when you left the room we cried like we knew you. Forever tinted with your blue, tinted with this blue, different blue. The heat of the sun, generated by you, and I'm tinted with your blue, tinted with this blue, different blue. There's a connection, deep and true. The air vibrated and wrapped us around you, and when you left the room we cried like we knew you. Forever tinted with your blue, tinted with this blue, different blue.
And there we have it. Sorry, Arno was just yabbering away, telling me stories. That is, of course, Arno. Well, now we know Arno's brother, but produced by Iconoclast Germany, Niels Schwimmer. Hey, how's it going, Niels? And produced by Nicholas Blankenhorn as well. But an amazing production and concept with lots of moving parts there, Arno. But before we jump into that, why don't you tell us the story of how you came into being a sign director and stuff through your brother?
I will. I'll do that. I'm seeing there's some questions on this.
Oh.
So should I tell that story first, and then we'll go back to the video?
Yeah. Let's. You know what? I'm gonna roll the video again, and you can just tell the story. I'll do it. You can just voice over while the thing plays.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, so I was just telling Ross that Ross was saying how lucky I am to have a creative brother who trusted me to make a bunch of his videos, which is true. I'm really grateful. And I was just telling him that actually my very first job just after dropping out of film school was making my brother's very first video, and he somehow convinced his label to let me direct the video, which I think the budget was like $15K, which it seemed absolutely immense at the time. I was just sweating, and I made the video, and then we were really happy with it, and we posted it online. I think this was 2004, and we got an email after posting it online from someone whose email address was mary@youtube.com, and I literally had never heard of YouTube. And she was like, "Hi, I work for this startup called YouTube, and we'd like to feature your video on the front page." And at the time, they had a curated front page. And I literally remember a phone call with my brother where we were like, sounds like a scam. They don't want to give us any money. Should we say yes? Should we say no? And we obviously said yes, and they posted it, and It got, even for the time, YouTube was just starting, but it got a bunch of views, and I got some calls from a couple of production companies from that, and started working music videos and commercials from that. So that's how I got started, really.
Completely crazy. I mean, that must have been even before Google even owned.
This was before, yeah. And the funny thing is that the next video I made, I tried to write back to Mary at YouTube.com, and by then YouTube was just like the hottest thing on the internet. She just did not answer.
Yeah. She's like on another planet at that point. Yeah, but damn, what a wonderful story, just being in the right time, right place, I guess, in that way. Yeah. And that must have been great for your brother as well. But anyway, we could talk about that for ages, couldn't we? We could do that. Yeah. But tell us about this production, because of course we've got. Should I roll? Sorry, got some questions here. We've just got so much going on here. It's great. Yes, his brother does have a lot of energy, which is exactly what he was saying. Let's see. Did you storyboard it at all, or just let them go wild? Okay, so what software did you do it in? I guess this kind of comes out in the behind the scenes here, Arno. Do you want to talk us through it, or do you want me to roll the first behind the scenes video? Or what?
Yeah, why don't you roll it? Because I think we'll answer some of the questions that are here. But just to clarify though, Dane says 2004. This is not the actual video I was talking about that's up on YouTube. This was a different video. This one that we just watched is from I think it's 2018.
Yeah, that's a very new one.
Yeah.
Arno's done a few of them, but yes. So yeah, let me find. There we go. There's the behind the scenes. Let's roll that.
Deep and true. The air vibrated and wrapped us around you. And when you left the room, we cried like we knew you. Forever tinted with your blue, tinted with this blue, different blue.
It's the making of. I'm just going to add a little window in, and we can have a little chat over that. So, Arno, you were mentioning on our little chat while everybody was watching that this is a real labor of love. But just I would have absolutely killed to see that motion control in action, which is almost kind of seems to be almost a signature of yours. In a lot of your work is very tight choreography and motion controlled kind of stuff. Is that something that really turns you on? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah. I think I mean, it's not specifically motion control per se, but I do love the sensation with short form content, music video or commercial or even short film. I do love the idea of creating something that feels like a bit of a magic trick, and it has a bit of like that has a choreography to it, and I think what I love most about it is then once I've got that concept and I know what choreography I want to bring to it, I have to figure out what the best tools are going to be. And a lot of the time, motion control is a great tool because it allows you to, essentially, for anyone who doesn't know, a motion control rig it's basically like a big crane on wheels. Well, there's larger ones and smaller ones, and basically once you've programmed your move, you can the motion control is like a robot, and it will redo the move over and over as many times as you need. Exactly the same. And so you'll be able to, you can move things around and do different passes for post, or you can do all sorts of things with motion control if you know how to use it as a tool. So I guess that's a fun bit right there, because that shows. So this is showing actually a rehearsal on the left side.
Mm-hmm.
And on the right side, it shows the previs that we did for it in advance, and it shows how they vary. So you can see the first rehearsal didn't work at all because he just completely walked out of shot in 10 seconds there. But this is the thing with motion controls: it's a wonderful tool, but it can be extremely tricky to work with. And on this one, we use the Milo, which is still an industry standard. It's not, there's obviously there's fancier rigs now. There's the Techno Dolly, the Bolt, and plenty of others. But the Milo is still used a lot, but it has an extremely old interface. It's been around since the 90s, and it can be so fussy when you're trying to do this kind of very complicated move that's all over the place.
Yeah.
And so what we did on this, it is essentially the process was first finding a location, and then so that I could kind of design the camera move in my head. And then I went to Mathematique, the post house, and sat down with them and created this previs, based on the space. And then what you do when you've got previs is that you can, for motion control, is you can input the actual motion control rig you're going to be using into the Maya software. Mm-hmm. And so you're sure that you're designing a move that the rig can actually do. And then in theory, take that move that you've done in 3D and you input it into your actual Milo on your prep day. And in theory, it knows the move right there and then, and it can do it perfectly. Yeah. But I've never seen that theory actually work. You input it and it just like does something completely different, or it gives you a starting point, but then you just have to finesse it. And the truth is, on this, we just had to shoot. We couldn't keep programming, and so I ended up having to adapt parts of the performance to what the rig was doing.
All right. It would be easier to adapt the performance than reprogram a move.
Yeah. At a certain point, it was just like kind of a balance, But I find that with these choreographed kind of pieces, what I always try to do is try to make sure that it's obviously super technical, but I try to make sure that it doesn't, the technique of it doesn't kind of overwhelm the piece, and that, as much as possible, I try to make it feel effortless, even though it's very technical, and I try to make sure that on set, even though there's all this crazy prep with the motion control and the previs, that on set there's still a certain amount of spontaneity, and that, if something comes up, performer comes up with something, or we just realize, that once we frame it up, that it would be cooler to, do it this different way, that, try to keep that level of spontaneity available. And so, from some point of view, working with the hiccups from the Milo is kind of part of that. And it kind of brought some of the fresher moments camera-wise. There's a bit before the long pull-out at the end where the camera, when it comes to the band, before there's three of the singer, the camera does a a weird, like a crazy pan towards the right, and it kind of overshoots where the singer's supposed to go, and then comes back towards the keyboard.
Yeah.
And I just had my brother basically overshoot his run, so he went too far, and then came back to his keyboard, and it makes it look like a spontaneous moment, as if the camera was like,
oh really? Well, that's
following him, as if he, as if that just came with his energy, and then the camera had followed him, which gave it almost like a live feel, which is the kind of thing you can't really plan for. So anyway.
Well, that's one of the things that I've always thought about your work as well, is that because it's so it's such a rehearsed choreography between the camera and the different moving parts, and of course we'll see that throughout the rest of your pieces here, especially the Clayton one. There's always the risk with spots like that it can feel too clinical and straight and almost precise, and so however, with your work you always manage to maintain keep a little bit of humor and character, and I guess I hadn't really thought about the spontaneity elements before to keep it like natural or relatable in that kind of way. Is that something that you always keep in mind with these heavily choreographed pieces?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's always a goal. I always work hard at that. Yeah, basically trying to make the viewer forget technique as much as possible, so it doesn't just feel like a technical, prowess, but it has a bit of soul to it, really. Yeah. Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's really good. I mean, apart from that, it's like it's very nicely finished and things as well. With was that done with Mathematic, with sort of like a chromatic aberration or something on there to just sort of keep your focus?
That's right.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah. I love chromatic aberration. Yeah, we did. I wanted to give it that look, like it has, kind of crazy old lenses that are going crazy on the edges. But that was added in post. That's right.
No, it's really wonderful. I loved it. But how you said that there wasn't much of a budget? Did you have to pull in some favors to get that rig to play with? Because it's not like anybody can get their hands on such an amazing piece of kit, even though it's as crotchety as it might be.
You know what? So many favors. DP Cesari was amazing. The production company, Niels and Co. in Berlin were amazing. Mathematic Post House invested in the video. The rig was where a good chunk of the small budget we had went. But you know what? To be honest, this was even a great. It ended up being a great showreel piece for the Moco operator, so I think he was quite keen to make it happen.
Yeah. And how about the this is such a stupid technical question, but because your brother is such an animated performer, were there certain bits in there was like a rotoscope nightmare where, of course, because you blocked it quite carefully, but were there any things where people would just think, when you were trying to layer all these little extra vignette scenes, that became a bit of a nightmare? Because it looks pretty flawless in that way, but were there any kind of problems?
Thanks. Yeah, there is one bit, I won't point it out, but there is one bit in particular where he kind of goes over himself. But I mean, you know what, we were pretty careful planning it. We shot it all in one night, but we had the night before we had a programming day where we kind of set it all up and rehearsed it. Obviously, the tricky thing here is that in the end tricky thing was just lining up the shot, because in the end you've got about 200 of them in the room, and so the best way to do this would have been to have 200 extras. And then you place them all wherever they're going to be, and then you're sure that that the blocking is going to work and no one's going to run into each other. But we just didn't have the money for that all the time, and so you see, I think you showed it. You can see in the behind the scenes at one point that we had like a bunch of C-stands
yes,
around the room, but we didn't even have enough of those. Lining up the shot was quite tricky. I can't remember where I was going with this.
Don't worry about it. It was tricky.
Yeah, making sure they don't run into each other. But we did block very carefully where where the path of each character and especially the singer. And then and then the other thing was the planning of the passes to make sure that basically I think there were 43 passes in all.
Wow.
And so in each one, pretty much in each one, there's the 5 band members somewhere in the pass. And so we just had to make sure in each pass, basically, they were far enough from each other. They weren't run into each other.
Go more through it. I see Dane in the comments there. I think he says he's doing pre-viz for Mathematic right now, actually. So Dane is one of our regulars. He's in Berlin at the moment. Hey, Dane. Thanks for getting...
Oh, cool.
Thanks for checking in. Say hi to the Mathematic guys from Arno.
Yes.
Great, that's wonderful. I'm sorry if I just really love how these things are made, so I'm going to ask all these questions for you guys, whether you do or not. Shall we jump into the second piece? Because again, another very meticulously, carefully, and super precise spot is Clayton. Let's leap straight in. And that is Clayton Holmes, the Prefabulous, by who did you do that with? That was with through CAVIAR LA.
Yeah, that was with CAVIAR, who rep me in the US, and then made with the agency out of Boulder, Colorado, and then the Post House with the amazing Art Jail in New York. We have an office in Toronto too. Thanks, Ed, for the big up to my beard.
Oh yes, he's. You should tell them why. I don't know if you can quite see, but he's gone wild. He's gone full into the wild.
well, I mean, I won't pretend that this entire beard has grown during confinement, but I have decided to let it grow through to the end of confinement. So
yeah.
No trimming happening.
Yeah, I think it's looking good.
And then Chris Mabry was DP, who I collaborate with a lot, and he's great. And then Luke Tomlinson was the producer from CAVIAR, and who else? Ollie Williams from London was the production designer, who's totally amazing. Love working with him, and he has the most fabulous mustache for anyone who hasn't met him.
All right. So tell us about this one. Again, this is a very big choreographed piece, as we said, very very precise. But how did this project come to you in the first place? Before we jump into the behind the scenes, was it already storyboarded out like this, or because I see a lot of your signature things in there?
No, it was fairly open. They really what happened is they obviously wanted to show certain specific elements of the house. There were certain elements the client agency really wanted to feature, but they gave me quite a bit of freedom in terms of how we showed them, and they actually it was a fun process and unusual. They had Luke, the producer, and I fly out to one of their factories in Texas so we could take a look at how the houses are actually put together. And kind of come up with a fun way of showing it, a fun metaphorical way of showing it, so we shot it in Prague, and there's a lot of motion control in this also. Not every single shot, but there's a fair amount. We used a different rig on this one, a rig called the Techno Dolly, which is great because it allows you to operate the first take. As opposed to on the Milo, you have to, you're basically just creating a thing in a computer with ones and zeros.
Yeah.
But with the Techno Dolly, you can actually operate it.
Wow.
And then it will remember it and recreate it. And so it allows you to get a really organic feel in the motion of the camera.
Yeah.
So you're playing the previs, which
Yeah, sorry.
no, that's cool. I don't always get to do previs. It looks like, it's, I love it when I do, but it's always okay.
But well, let's roll the behind the scenes thing, because I do want to ask you about that thing, because there's an incredible shot with that rig with somebody flying on it for that final shot, which I want to know a bit more about. Let's roll that now. It's very short. We'll play that quick. There we go. That's so. Yeah. What that final shot of who is flying on that last shot there? It's was that part of the same rig, or was that just a separate for the last shot?
That's not a motion control shot. That's on a
just on an arm.
It's a Movi operator. It's called what's it called? It's a slingshot Movi. Which is interesting because the guy is essentially he's moving around the room with this this Movi that's kind of at an arm's length, but he's not actually framing. He's just kind of controlling more or less where the camera goes. But then the DP is out by the monitor with me, and he's operating the actual camera pan tilt. So it's kind of a combined effort.
Wow.
Which it allows you to do kind of crazy moves because the Movi operator doesn't have to be too careful with framing.
Right.
So he can, so it means that he's able to do crazy things like step onto a crane, and without being too worried about framing, and he can kind of worry about safety a little bit. But yeah, that was a crazy shot because he steps onto that crane and you can see the guy with the white t-shirt clips a safety on.
Yeah.
And then off he goes.
It's really...
And then you can see we're obviously in studio in Prague there, and the entire exterior environment at the end of the spot is all done in post by Art Jail. Did a great job with that. That was one of the that was a really fun shot. Another shot that's really quite complex technically was and fun. Is the shot that starts with the hardwood floor building, and then that ends with the bathroom coming down. Because essentially, and stop me if this gets too technical and geeky, essentially, well, the hardwood floor bit is really fun. We had, I wanted the floor to kind of build like a puzzle from left, right, just before her feet touches the floor. And so basically, the way we decided to do it was to shoot it on the techno dolly backwards. So we designed the shot. We did a first pass of the shot forward, like as you see it, essentially, and that's how we programmed the move, with her walking towards the lens with the floor already fully made.
Yeah.
And then we did a second pass where we just had the techno dolly, do the move backwards. So exactly the same move, but backwards. And in that move, you see at one point in the behind the scenes, we had I think there were maybe 14 people, maybe 7 on each side, that were pulling the slats of wood out, one after the other, and it had to be timed perfectly.
Yeah.
And that took a bit of rehearsing. And then, but it's just so fun when that works,
Yeah, very satisfying.
And then the last bit, the kind of last main pass, which is where it gets really tricky, is that essentially we wanted to have the bathroom come down as if it's being lowered, on this rig down onto the floor, but with the dad and his daughter character in the bathtub, and obviously, we weren't going to be able to actually lower a bathroom down to the floor. So what we did is we built the bathroom up on risers, and then for the final pass of that shot, we essentially programmed the techno dolly so it would start the move exactly the same, and then eventually move up, boom, all the way up towards the bathroom, so that you get, in the end, when you cut out the bathroom and composite it into the shot, perspective-wise, it's the same effect as if it had been coming down in terms of parallax, with the camera coming up to it. Does that make sense?
No, not at all. But it sounds amazing. I'm sure the final effect is excellent.
But you can see in the I think I sent you this bit of previs, but I think it's in the behind the scenes. There's you can see a little bit of previs for that shot.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can see 2 cameras. There's a green camera and a yellow camera.
Oh yeah.
And you can see.
I don't have it, unfortunately. I don't have it in here because I thought it was in this main one. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry, guys. I blew it.
How many days of production? I see a question. It was, I think it was 3 days. 3-day shoot.
3-day shoot. Wow. But there weren't any accidents or any kind of surprises that had to be worked around? I mean, especially that move that's through the... I'm just imagining a lot of people falling over coffee tables and things in that reverse move out.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah, there were plenty of those kinds of accidents. I mean, no one broke anything. But yeah, sure, there were plenty of little accidents and surprises, and it's like I was saying earlier. For me, the big thing is when that kind of thing happens, is trying to make the most of it and see if there's anything within an accident that's actually a good thing.
Yeah. Get up, Leslie. That was a great take. Well, before we get way into the weeds here, I want to move in. I think we should move into Sleeman's, because of course this is kind of different to the other things, which I find quite interesting. Let's jump straight into it.
I feel crafty, oh so crafty.
I feel crafty and clever and bright. I am crafty.
Yeah, I'm crafty.
Very crafty, so crafty. Ta-da!
At Sleeman, we salute the kind of thinking that's led us to brewing beer we're mighty proud of. I feel crafty.
We're back. Sorry, we're having another whole chat there. we keep doing this. So Sleeman's by again Chris Malby. Is that you and Chris Malby?
Chris Mabley,
Chris Mabley.
Was DP on it. He's amazing. And this I shot through my Canadian reps partners, and the agency with the AND partnership out of Toronto. And it was this was a really fun job for me. It's a bit I love comedy, and I don't get it, you know how it is in the industry. There's so many directors out there, and there's so many good directors out there that it's I think it's really easy for clients and agencies to kind of pigeonhole directors when they when they see someone who's good at something, they just want to have them do that over and over. And so when there's opportunities, most directors, some directors are just happy to do the same thing over and over, but I think most directors want to, do other things.
Yeah.
And I love comedy, and I've always wanted to do a bit more comedy. And so this was a script that had a bit more of a comedy element to it. So I was really excited to jump on it.
Yeah.
And we shot in Portugal, in Lisbon. And it was tricky because I'd say the main thing, just production-wise, it was tricky because it was, it should have been a 2-day job, but we shot it entirely in 1 day.
Oh gosh.
It ended up being an extremely long day. But it's just one of those things that you see. There's a fair amount of that in the industry now. Well, there's probably going to be even more so now after the current crisis. But just budgets getting slimmer and slimmer. And the truth is, when a good job comes along, it's either you say, no, it has to be 2 days, you need to cough up more money.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be someone who's going to say, no, it's fine, we'll make it work. And so you just lose the opportunity to do a cool job.
Yeah.
Or you just try to make it happen. Anyway, I'm really proud of what we ended up with. It's a really fun one, but there's a lot of pain in the process.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to see how it's different to a lot of your work, and yet there's still all the signature things there, your love of kinetic, mechanical things, or what is sort of I guess everything's sort of always playful and surprising. There's always those things, and then of course they're very careful moves that are placed within that. I really loved seeing it. I hadn't actually seen it, I don't think, until you shared it with me this time. So it's great to see the spot. But yeah, so it was what else? You said that it was in 1 day. So was that, how many locations was that? I mean, is it?
I think it's there's 6 scenes. But we had to be smart about the scouting. So I think in the end I think it's 3 main areas, and then we kind of used each area for two scenes. It was quite fun coming up with the different, the concept is obviously just people being crafty with their beer, just coming up with weird ways of using their beer or serving themselves beer. And we went through, the agency had a cool script to start with, but they were quite open to other ideas, and so I suggested a bunch of things, and the creators came up with a bunch of things. We just went through so many different ideas and designed, and the art director draw out like so many different weird, multi-bottle opener devices, or just like bizarre things that I could have shared actually, but we didn't end up in the commercial.
Yeah, well, save them. I mean, I guess that sort of ingenuity is and improvised stuff is something that I've recognized in your work, and then of course when you started talking about influences, which we're going to go through again, some of the ones that you mentioned, it really starts to put together how you have fallen in love with that, and that's something that I think you probably, consciously or not, are always seeking to put into your work, and what makes it still fun and fresh and playful. Things like, of course, we'll mention Tati. I'm going to mention him now. I love him. you love him. If you guys don't know who Jacques Tati is, I as soon as you mentioned him, I was like, oh yeah, it all sort of pieces together. So if you guys aren't sure, we usually invite guests on to share their work, which is amazing, and then ask them to share a few influences with us, films that they find inspirational, or perhaps even things that they admire that are current today, or might even wouldn't mind turning their hand to in the future. So some of the ones that you mentioned, of course, are I'm not even going to try to say his name. It's the director of Tango.
Yeah. I think most people refer to him as Big. Zbigniew Rybczynski. Yeah, he's amazing. In fact, he's been an influence to a lot of people in the commercial music video industry. Gondry has, been very influenced by him. If you look at his work, but it's there's just an insane creativity and playfulness in all of his work, and he was really quite. He was at the forefront of a lot of compositing ideas, and the name is Zbigniew Rybczynski.
There we go.
I'll write it as Zbigniew. There might be a spelling mistake. He actually won an Oscar for that short film, his most famous short film, which is Tango.
Tango, yes. Definitely look it up.
He won the Oscar in the early 80s, and there's a funny story, which is supposedly he went out for a cigarette after winning the Oscar for best short film. I think best short film, or best animated short film maybe. And he and they wouldn't let him back in because he was just a crazy Czech dude in the 80s, outside the Oscar building, and the security guards wouldn't let him in. And they called the cops on him. And he said, he supposedly yelled, "American pig, I have Oscar." He was holding his Oscar in his hand, and they wouldn't let him in.
Wow, that is amazing. That is good. Of course, you also mentioned other influences and things that of course you admire. Of course, Spike Jones. I'm not going to play these things because
everybody knows them.
Because not just because we know them, they're awesome, but also because music labels just love to block these videos.
Oh, sure.
Almost definitely. So I know for sure if I play Kenzo or Apple, just go, go look them up. There they are. They're over there. You can go find them on Vimeo once you add Arno. Go check them out. If you don't know them, you got to watch them. They're awesome. But I'm not going to play them here. I'm going to play them there.
It's funny though when you ask me about influence, direct influences, or I don't know. I know some directors have influences that they kind of go back to religiously, and directors that they study kind of. But I really tend to. There aren't that many things that I go back and watch more than once. I guess I used to when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I tend to kind of work, I guess, instinctively quite a lot. So it was really, and when you asked me that, it was a real exercise for me, and quite a fun one to come up with some names for you.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I mean, even if they're not direct influences, definitely can see the appreciation that you have in some of the works. Again, like Nagi Noda, which of course everybody probably knows from Sentimental Journey. Just in terms of the aesthetics that you appreciate, I think come through.
What was funny is I mentioned those few Nagi Noda, or the other Japanese directors, Koichiro Tsujikawa, who does all those amazing videos for Cornelius.
Yes.
And then and I mentioned Méliès, and Georges Méliès short films, because he's obviously the original, film magician. And it was just about Nagi Noda. It was funny, after I said that to you, I went back and looked at a bunch of Méliès shorts, because I hadn't done so for a bit. And I found this one that actually Nagi Noda totally stole one of her concepts.
Oh, really?
For this Tiger music video she did.
Oh.
You know that one?
Let's not off my heart, but let's find it here. I'll find it.
I don't know if it's Tiger or Tiga. I know you pronounce that guy's name. This Canadian DJ singer guy, TIGA.
Yes.
And he has this. She did this really cool. I mean, it's still really cool. This cool video of him like walking around this kind of fake, kind of theatrical park environment that's shot on a stage, and there's these like telephone lines above him that represent like a music chart. And then these when the chorus comes up, these birds fly onto the electricity lines and basically
form the notes.
Yeah, they represent the notes of the chorus. And then it's so funny. I was going back through some Georges Méliès shorts earlier, and I saw that actually that's in one of his shorts, but where it was this magician guy throwing his head onto these electricity lines to create the notes.
Yeah, it's amazing. Definitely check out Naginota's work. And again, I cannot pronounce Koichiro
Tsujikawa, but you know his work though?
Yes, yeah. I hadn't called back to it for quite a while, but of course the Cornelius music videos are amazing. So I really recommend looking them up. But I can definitely see how that their sensibilities appeal to you, especially you referenced Fit Song. I recommend that you guys look that up because it's creatively it's wonderful. And definitely outside of the mode which we generally see today. But you will, if you watch all of these things, you will start to see Arno's mind unfolding in here, or at least sort of harmonizing with his mind. And outside of that, you also just very quickly, I of course need to get them to reference some things as well. Arno also mentioned, of course, I mean, everybody loves him. It's like, we got Ian Ponce-Jules. How can you not appreciate Ian Ponce-Jules' work at the moment? I mean, the fact that he gets to run loose at the moment is encouraging creatively to us all, I think. Long may that last. Oscar Hudson is another one that you referenced as well.
I think he the last like 2-3 years he's really done some amazing work, and you know, the kind of work that I love that's you know, creating magic on screen, you know, putting little magic tricks into a little 30-second or 3-minute bundle, and just, you know, making them just kind of making you feel like a kid when you watch the pieces and have that wonder.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that magic trick thing. That's a very nice way of putting it. And then another. Tell me why you mentioned Sorry to Bother You, which of course is a brilliant film. But it's what is it about this film that's stood out to you?
You know what? Yeah, it's a little bit. It obviously is a bit different. I just thought I'd throw in like a feature reference. It's just a film that really stood out to me in recent times. I love that. I feel like it's both on an aesthetic level. It really kind of breaks ground and just feels really fresh and just totally free and loose. Mm-hmm. But it also has a message to it, and it's quite a strong message. But it delivers it in a really playful and super original way. I thought that was a real standout.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Go check it out. I think it's on Amazon Prime. Just go check that one, and then of course DJ Shadow, of course by Sam Pilling. What is it about this one? This was a bit of a surprise for me. I mean, obviously it's a fantastic video.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not really an influence piece. I was just trying to come up with things that I've loved recently, and I just think you know, it's rare that a music video feels like it fits a song so well. Like the visuals really fit the tone of the song so well. And he managed to put together such an amazing narrative there. Yeah. There's just so much sarcasm in the fact that these UN politicians are delivering this kind of dirty rap. I just really love it. It's I admire Sam's work.
Oh, nice. and we'll rattle through the others just quickly in case you guys need to see. Obviously, Singing in the Rain. That feels to me like obviously choreography and music is a big part of your life, and that classical edge. I don't need to worry about that. But then Ernest Lubitsch. Tell me about Ernest Lubitsch coming into this. This was a bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, but do you know Ernst Lubitsch's work?
I do, but what is? I mean, apart from the obvious, what is it about him that makes you love his work?
You know, there's just kind of a lovely playfulness and a lovely whimsy about his in most of his work that I've, you know, as a kid I watched his films over and over in his, you know, it's his early Hollywood films, especially like To Be or Not to Be. I absolutely love, which is this, if you haven't seen it, is an insane comedy about during World War II. Ninochka, I really love, and Bluebeard's Eighth Wife is a film. I was saying earlier I don't go back to films that often, but this is one that I must have seen like 20 times. There's just there's a kind of elegant, visually elegant comedy, but yet crazy comedy element to his films that I've always loved. And there's just kind of a very positive outlook on life in his filmmaking, but in a visually original way that I've you know, somehow always that's always really appealed to me.
Oh, wonderful. Of course, guys, I'm just going to mention Tati again, because I feel like when I think of Tati, Playtime, and Mon Oncle, I can never really say it. That sort of interesting whenever I look at it, I wonder if maybe seeing your work has maybe made me appreciate him a lot more. I do wonder if some of his like obsession with comedy and the mechanical efficiency, I think they call it, is something that maybe is. I agree with you, of course, with everything that rotating the practical hilarity of the environment surprising people is something that I feel is maybe something in your work, but I could just
yes. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, certainly not consciously, but yeah, that sounds totally right to me. Another, you know, in the same kind of world, The Party by Blake Edwards.
Okay.
Kind of along those lines too. It has that same kind of.
I don't think I've seen that. I'll check.
It's with Peter Sellers, and he plays this Indian character who gets invited to a party in Hollywood in the 60s.
It's probably like very politically incorrect now, I imagine, but
he gets invited by mistake, and then he kind of he causes all this trouble there. It's really, really hilarious. I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
but it has that same kind of mechanical, slapstick kind of comedy vibe to it, as some of Tetsu's work.
Nice. Well, I'll definitely check that one out. If you guys haven't seen these films, of course, it's essential viewing. I highly recommend it. It's just fun. It's just hilarious. The master, Jacques Tati. Check him out. And I'm not going to drag you through this too much longer. Arno, thank you so much for sharing with us. Guys, if you have any other questions for yes, Tiger, exactly. Natalie. Hello, Natalie. That's how you spell it, not with a Y. I'm a complete idiot. Yes, go check out that thing there. Thank you all for joining me. Before I say goodbye though, remember, I need to hit refresh on this bad boy because this thing needs to move. And also, if you don't donate, guys, then you're not going to be in the running for any kind of prizes. Let's do it. It's a thing that's very important for me. Even a couple of pounds gets you in the running. I really need it. That's absolutely nobody. Joshua Eiffel says, I'm going to keep streaming until this thing's £1,000, guys. So do it. The link's down below in the comments, in the description. Please go and do it, please. Break my heart. Let's get to 900 by the end of this week. But yeah, thank you so much, Arno. I really appreciate it, and I hope that.
Thanks for having me.
I hope unpacking all of that was fun. Yeah, and hopefully you'll come back and do it again.
Yeah, with pleasure. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you guys all so much.
Thanks for doing this.
And yeah, no, my pleasure. And stay well, Arno. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. And we will see you on Friday for Andrew Telling, or if you want to come and we have a hangout arranged for tomorrow. But otherwise, thank you very much, guys. See you there. Bye.
Cool.